The Saw is family. And so are we. We are Horrortok.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of We Are Horrortok. I'm your host, Andrew Horror, and my very first guest is somebody that I can spend hours talking to, which is exactly what I did. So this episode is going to be in multiple parts. So please enjoy part one, featuring my very special guest. She has directed such films as Crushed, Adherent, Don't Fall Asleep, and her latest film, Fredheads, the documentary. You may know her from her amazing and informative and funny TikTok videos. Please welcome my friend, Paige, aka thefinalgurl13.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I think you were like one of my first horror talk friends that really? I made on TikTok as well too. I didn't really follow a whole lot of horror accounts, and yours popped up. You were talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street or Wes Craven, and I was like, instant follow. And then I don't know, your content, I just really, really enjoyed your content.
Thank you.
For several years.
Okay, before we get started, I just want to fangirl out here for a minute. I love the way you talk about movies, not just in expressing your love for them. For example, okay, we were on live the other night. I know a lot of people weren't on here, but the way you were talking about Candyman and what that movie's about, I'm just sitting there yeah. But really in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing.
Thank you. I don't know. I felt like I was talking too much on that live. No. I love film. I think that it stems from, I talk about it in our documentary about growing up and being bullied and not really having a whole lot of friends. Mm-hmm. And, Anthony Brownlee, who's also in the documentary, he and I talk about this all the time about how these films were our only friends. And so for me, I'm the type of person who I'll rewatch a film. And so I want to study it. I want to learn every detail about it. And I think even through TikTok, having conversations about film opens and expands your mind. And so for me, when I'm really knowledgeable on a film, I can get really into it. And I grew up in Chicago. So Candyman was that's our film. That's the one, that's the horror film. And Chicago is very much horror centric. We had a mayor, his name was Mayor Daley. And he was a huge horror fan. So for Chicago, it was kind of a national holiday for us. Neighborhoods would have huge events where they would decorate their yards and all that stuff. And so for us, Candyman was the film for us. And it was haunting and scary, and it had such a message. And even as a kid growing up in a poor area, I grew up in the hood. I grew up in one of the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. And so growing up in those areas, you see that in the films, and you see that message that's there. And so when we were talking about it, and I love him so much, but he wasn't understanding the plot behind the film. Yeah. And I was like, you're almost there. I was like, you're right on the cusp. And so that I just kind of all right, I'm not beating around the bush anymore. Here's what the film is. And I just, it was a great convo. I loved that.
It was so good. That's one of the things I love so much about TikTok, is just being able to get together like that and, expand people's minds sometimes, or just to talk about things and stuff. It's just a wonderful thing.
It is. It's fun because it's in real time. I think that's why TikTok, I think, is so. There's 150 million US users. I think the reason why is because we now have this tool that we can connect. I would have never met you. We would have never been friends. And look,
yeah, look at us now. We're here.
I
We're
know.
talking.
And in all intents and purposes, look at both of our backgrounds, like who we
Yeah.
are. Like we should be friends, but
We
we
should
never
be.
would have met if it wasn't
Yeah.
for this app. And I love it.
It's such a cool thing that it's like kind of take for granted a little bit. But then when you think about it, you're like, I've connected with some awesome people. Awesome things have happened because of this. And I'm eternally grateful.
Me too.
All right. I love it. What inspired you to start making TikTok videos? And when exactly did you start making TikTok videos?
So I joined TikTok kind of like everyone else, like when the pandemic hit. I had like heard a little bit about it. I was running 4 huge stores for a corporation, and I like all my assistants were really young, and I was like hiring like a lot of like young girls to like mentor, and I would catch them like making TikToks in the salons, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We're on TikTok. You got to be on TikTok. You're cool. Be on TikTok." And I'm like, "No." And so the pandemic hit, and then my one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, Deandra Laser, she is Sassy Sledgehammer on TikTok, and she's also in our documentary. She does the Regina Mills cosplay, and she posted Swipe It Down video, and like so from her like regular to then Regina Mills, and it like blew up, and she was like having so much fun on there. And so I was like, okay, is that what this is? Like, is it like I can dress up in my cosplay and like be a nerd and people will get it? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. So I joined. And when I joined for probably the first year, it was in, I think 2020, but I think probably for like the first year and a half, I wasn't really utilizing it. I was just like talking about random things. I was like, redoing my condo at the time, or when my roof flooded, or doing reactionary stuff where I was doing like calling out people and talking about subjects that I weren't really like passionate about. And I couldn't figure out how to stop that and cross over into talking about film and pop culture, which is what I really want to do, which is that's where I feel like I thrive. And so I started watching TikToks like yours, and then Larry joined TikTok, who is a really good friend of mine outside of TikTok, and he then joined TikTok, and some other people I started following, like Horror Chronicles, and I'm like name dropping it, but like or like Emma of the Impact, like all these like people, like I started following them, and I was like, you know what, like I can do this, and I really like these people, and I think I'm gonna start doing it. And so I took a break this summer, or last summer. I took a break, took 2 months off. And I was like, when I come back, I'm relaunching everything. I'm wiping my TikTok clean, and I am going to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I'm passionate about it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and wherever that goes, then it'll go. Then I start Scream and all sorts of stuff. And to me, I feel like I have found this community of people that are just so great. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, I like look with you, like, I think that we're all just building real, genuine friendships. And it's because we're able to express ourselves, and I don't have to hide who I am. I can be nerdy and be geeky. And it gives me that feeling of what I first had when I first found my friends through A Nightmare on Elm Street and made the documentary Fredheads. Like, it's that feeling again, and I love it. And so that's why I started making content. And then people just really seem to enjoy it, and then they really also hate it. So
Yeah,
it's like it's a duality with social media. But like for the most part, everybody, it's just people have just been enjoying it. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
About the haters, listen. There are people on TikTok that I meet that don't make videos, that just are always in the comments, or big supporters, but they don't make their own content, which is perfectly fine if you don't want to do that. I mean,
right,
that's fine. I'm not pressuring anybody, but I always get people saying like they're scared of basically the haters. They're scared to get these mean comments and stuff. And I did go into I don't want to go too much into myself in this, but that was one of the big things for me is because I have social anxiety. I have all kinds of different anxieties. I'm
Me too.
very, self-conscious about stuff. And I'm just like, God, I don't know if I can put my face to a camera and have an audience or have people watch my videos. And then one day I'm just like, oh, fuck it. I'll do it. And I did it and I'm here. Okay. So if you're out there and you're scared to make videos, just do it. You're probably going to get some mean comments. But
for every mean comment, you get like 1,000 or 100 great comments, and it makes it so worth it. And if you eventually get so many mean comments, you could turn the comments off, or you can filter words that you don't want to hear or see.
And delete comments.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I delete comments all the time.
Block people. I delete and block.
Me too. Those are my two favorite things.
Daily, but I'm not that it happens like all the time. I'm just, when I do get mean people, they're gone. I don't want to deal with that. I like positivity. I like, and by that, I don't mean everybody agrees on everything. I mean, I like, general positivity of like, you can disagree with somebody and not be a negative Nancy about it.
Right. You can have conversations and have discord and not necessarily debates, but like just conversations about things, like you're a big fan of the Halloween, the latest Halloween film.
Yes.
And I'm not as big of a fan of it. And like, we have very different opinions on it, but that doesn't mean I'm attacking you or you're attacking me.
We're allowed,
and so it's okay. Yeah, we're allowed to have our own opinions.
Have different opinions and still be friends, you guys, everybody.
And I think the majority of people in the horror talk world, I think, are that way, and they know that, and they respect each other. And I think that's why I love it so much, is because it's not really drama. In the little fandoms here and there are little sparks of fans who just like trolls and stuff. That's normal.
Yeah.
But in general, everybody just kind of gets along. Like everyone just we all support each other. We all like each other's. Anytime I see anybody, like I don't care who it is, if I'm following them or we're mutuals, anytime I see them come up on my For You page, it's an instant heart. I try to comment something and then I repost it, because I feel like otherwise, why am I following you? If I'm not going to be supporting you, why am I following you? And I feel like most of Horror Talk is that way too.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the many things we love about Horror Talk. So not only are you an amazing TikToker, okay? You're also a filmmaker, which is amazing, okay? I have dreams, but,
I'm joining our team. We can always use people. So.
I mean, I don't know I don't know anything about it.
Neither did I when I first started out. So.
I threw my life away instead of, doing the things I needed to do to get to that point.
Yeah, that's most of it.
I threw my life away. So
you didn't throw your life away. You're living in like a dumpster.
Yeah. This is a Photoshop green screen background. How did you get into that? And was there a certain film, certain thing you saw that inspired you to go that route and be amazing like that?
Well, thank you for saying it. When I was little, I grew up really poor, and my grandfather worked in a factory in Chicago, and they had come from Alabama. And so he like worked and saved. My grandma was very like outgoing, and he got her a video camera one year for Christmas. He like saved, and it was like one of those big block old school VHS cameras.
Amazing.
Right. And my whole family would act out like plays. We would do like The Wizard of Oz. Every Christmas we would do like Christmas Carol. My grandmother and I would reenact I Love Lucy. She would be Lucy and I'd be Ethel. But a lot of times I was behind the camera, like directing my family. And it's something I always wanted to do. And so when I was a kid, I think I was like 11 years old, I think is when Scream came out. And I saw Scream in theaters with my friends. And I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan, But when I saw Scream, something in that made me realize like that self-awareness of that like light bulb moment was when I saw Wes Craven's name on screen. It said directed by Wes Craven. And for me, I had only seen that in A Nightmare on Elm Street or Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and it had been like written by and directed by, right? Like, so it's like, it's his films.
Yes.
But it's Elm Street. Like, that's the connection to me as a kid. It's Elm Street.
Yeah.
But the second I saw his name on Scream, and I loved Scream so much, it's one of my favorite films of all time, I realized okay, that's what you can do as a job. Like, he didn't write this film, he directed this film. And so somebody asked him to direct this film. And it like clicked in my head. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, when I grow up, that's what I want to do. And so nobody in my family like really went to college. They didn't know how to hone this. And so nobody told me, oh, you can actually have a job and you should learn how to edit and you should learn how to do these things. Go to Columbia and Chicago and, study this and study that. In my family, it was like, no, you have to get a job. You're going to be 15 years old. Go get a job. It's time to start supporting yourself. Like, this is the way of life. And so I didn't really like hone that. But my grandma, she gave me her video camera. And it's because it stopped working. So there was like no sound to it, no nothing. And I'd write all these generic like knockoff scripts that from Wes Craven movies. I'd combine things and stuff. And I'd film my friends. And I still have those VHS tapes. And I always joke with my friends that like someday I'm going to piece it together and like release it as like a funny gag thing. So, at like one of our reunions or something. But so that's how I started doing it. And then in the real world of working and stuff, I never really like honed it. I never really did anything with it. And then in 2015, I had started like editing small little fun things for myself to just kind of learn how to like edit. And I was doing like vlogs, and I was on YouTube and like doing like the whole like beauty guru thing. Cause by trade, I'm a hairstylist and in the beauty industry. And I thought I have a lot of knowledge there and I just want to talk. So like, clearly I'm a talker. I'm talking your head off right now. But like,
please, yes, this is amazing.
Well, thanks. And so I started doing vlogs, and really the whole thought of me doing that was I wanted to learn how to edit. And I was like, how do I edit? I don't have really any friends who would let me like film them. Deandra, Anthony, all of them, they were miles away. We didn't live near each other. And so I was like, the only person I know how to do is me, or like my little sister, or like my cousin. So like I'd film like little shorts with them, like horror shorts, like 2-minute shorts, and piece them together and edit, and was like learning how to do it. And I still didn't think there was a career in this for me. I still thought I have to do hair, so I have to survive. And in 2015, we went to Horror Hound in Indianapolis, and it was a huge Nightmare on Elm Street reunion. And my friend Nathan Thomas Milliner made a fan film called The Confession of Fred Krueger, which is, to me, even though I have made a fan film, it is the best fan film that I have ever seen. Not just like in the nightmarescape, it is the best fan film. The way that it is acted, the way that it's shot, the story behind it, it blew my mind when I was watching it, to the point that I started crying because I realized, what am I doing? Like if he is my friend, he's an artist, but he works, I think, at like, some like a shipping company, like but he's making a film. Like, what is stopping me? And so I turned to my girlfriends at the time, Deandra and my friend Michelle, and I said to them, I want to do this. I said, let's do this. Let's make a movie together. And I think we should make a movie about Nancy Thompson because we know her. And so we made Don't Fall Asleep, the untold story of Nancy Thompson. And from that, we got like Heather involved. We had some other Nightmare stars that were originally going to be involved. And that process was like a drug for me. We were on set we filmed it in 2 days, and we were on a 25,000 square foot sound stage, and we were like literal kids in a candy store. We were running around having so much fun. I met I knew Kim Gunzinger. Kim Gunzinger is my co-director on Fredheads and my co-producer in general on Venn Pictures. We're partners. We're like A24. Like that's our thing. And I had been friends with her, but like we brought her on like as support on that project, and like she's my best friend. Like she introduced me to my husband. Like so that set was just, it was so magical, so stressful. It was so fun. We learned a lot doing that. And then we had to like go back and do some reshoots. And I really felt like we learned the process of making a film on there. And I started editing. And when I was editing, I realized I fell in love with that I love piecing together the story. And then after we released it, a lot of people enjoyed it, and we kind of were like, okay, what's next? And so we started working on some other projects, and we had some other projects under our belt that we had filmed. And I was like, you know what? I want to do a documentary. I'm like, I saw a documentary about another fandom, and not in the horror space at all. And it was done really well. And I was like, there's a market for this. Like, I think this is a really cool idea. And I feel like we need our own. I feel like the Fredheads, the Nightmare fans, need theirs. And so then we launched and we started filming. And I realized from there that like, oh, this is something I can do. And so from there, I've made a lot of connections. I've worked on other projects. I'm the second unit DP for the Angela Sleepaway Camp documentary. I just edited some stuff for them. Also, I've edited stuff for other documentaries and other stuff. Like I've made so many connections with so many people that I'm like, this is what I want to do. And I want to take anybody who wants to come along with me. Like I want to take everybody. So I'm like, come on, like, let's do it. Like, let's do this. So that's kind of how it started. And really where it's at. Like, I'm super excited. I'm getting ready to launch my next documentary that I can't talk about yet, but I think I've told you. I think I told you about it, but like, maybe. Yeah. And so I'm just really excited. I think Horrortok, not necessarily Horrortok, but Horrortok in general, the film talk, media talk, I think is gonna grab this. And I think that they're gonna like this, and we're gonna open submissions. So we're gonna be like, whoever wants to be a part of it, just like we did with Fredheads, you know. Yes. So I love being in this industry. That's how I was inspired and how I got in.
It's just so amazing to hear that. Like, not to gush again over Fredheads, because I've totally told you like 1,000 times how I feel about Fredheads, but it's so, I don't even know the word for it. It's just watching it was like a whole emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like, there was genuinely funny moments where I was laughing out loud, which I don't do often when I'm watching things. Sometimes it's like a nose exhale, you know?
Yeah.
You know, the thing like, oh, that was worthy of a little noise. But
like a grunt.
Yeah.
like a your shoulder shrug. Like,
yes.
Like, but not like an actual, like, where you like laugh.
I'm just very cynical. I just look at the screen like, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's how I know. Like, I'm like,
But there were moments that I genuinely laughed, and there were moments where I genuinely cried and got teary-eyed, and it's just so amazing to see people come together for something that we all love together, and to hear their individual stories and personal stories. It's like, yeah, you guys know that I love this thing, but here's why, and maybe it's a happy, good I mean, it's a happy, good reason all the time because it's something you love, but the connection you have with that thing could have, you know, some not darker, but just more meaningful, deep rooted, and it's just, I love it. I just love seeing that so much.
Thank you.
And you did it wonderfully. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. This was the reaction we had like hoped for, and not to like insult anybody or say anything about anything negative or anything, but when we did it, we weren't sure if people were going to get it. We were like thinking like, okay, people are going to go into this and they're thinking that like, oh, it's going to be showing collections and people's tattoos and like this type of thing.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that like when people watched it, that they were like, oh, the there is something more to this. And there is more than to just, I mean, which we feature some of this, not a whole lot, but like we touch on certain things. And that's why it was important for us to open it being funny and being a little campy, a little playful, a little talking about certain things, because when you do dive into the message of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and particularly the Nightmare fandom, it does kind of get a little heavy. It gets a little emotional and emotionality and how people connect to these films, but not just necessarily these films, but horror in general. And I think it's Kim who says it in there, is that you use these films as a tool for survival, and you learn how to survive and maneuver life, because you're watching people maneuver death and watching them maneuver violence. And, you know, in Nightmare's case with Nancy, you know, nobody believed her. Yeah. And so a lot of people relate so much to that. Like, you don't believe me. And in particularly with Dream Warriors, these kids, nobody believed them, and they almost talked down to them and made fun of them. And here comes Nancy in saying, not only do I believe you, but I'm here and I'm showing up for you, and I'm going to fight for you, and I'm going to die on the sword for you. And that messaging is just so incredibly powerful. And I don't think people really truly realize that's what Nightmare on Elm Street is. And that's why it's so popular and why it connects to so many people. And so I'm just myself really learning that the community as a whole feels this way. And I don't know why we were so nervous that people wouldn't get it. All these people submitted it. Like all these, this is what they submitted. But it's just still, it was that fear that like, was it going to be too touchy-feely? Was it going to be like too much? Because it's produced by 4 women. And so we teeter that line of, we're in a man's space, and we're in an area that there's only so few of us who, in this, especially the documentary world, who have done things. There's my team, Kim Gunzinger, Deandra Laser, Crystal Van Etten. There's Kira Gardner, who did the Life with Chucky documentary. There's Tanera and Ashley Blackwell, who did Horror Noir. You know, Heather Lagenkamp and Arlene Marshall, who did I Am Nancy. And that's kind of it in the documentary space for women. Yeah. You know, and if I'm missing a few, you know, please somebody tell me. But I'd love to see it. But there's not really a whole lot of horror documentaries produced by women. And I hope that more women do produce them, because this is the reaction that we're getting. And I think that my favorite part, to ramble on a little bit, my favorite part is that we don't feature the same 5 people that other documentaries constantly feature. Yeah. We feature real people in the community. Like Ashley Blackwell is in our documentary. You know, she talks about Nancy Thompson in it. And, you know, we feature people like Lito Velasco. You know, Anthony Brownlee is a huge presence in it. And, you know, Crystal Van Etten is in it. And it's like, these are people in the community that are great people, that are incredibly knowledgeable, that don't necessarily get the exposure. And so for us, that is for me, the best part is that now everybody gets to hear everybody else's voices and not just the same type of people. Yeah.
So amazing. And about if you were wondering if it was going to be too touchy-feely or too, you know, whatever, the perfect balance, I think it was. And I mean, take that from me, who doesn't know anything about filmmaking or anything, but, you know.
Well, that seems to be the general consensus now. Like, you know, the cool thing is we were #1 for 5 weeks in a row. And I thought that was really dope. Yeah. And then we started getting reviews. We don't have like a ton. There's not like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reviews by any means, but we do have a lot of reviews. And we haven't had one negative review. Like, we had somebody who was like just brutally honest. And even in their brutal honesty, like, it still wasn't negative. It was just very constructive. And our team was like, yeah, they're right. Like, you know, like, oh, okay, yeah. And we like shared it and stuff like that too. And so for us, like, it was that it's reassurance to us. When we had our, he's going to love that I'm calling it out. When we had our premiere, Christian from Sloppy Horror Podcast came, and he stood up in our Q&A and said, for the first time, I feel like I've been seen. And when he said that, I was like, I know you. And like, it was like that connection. I was like, I know you. Oh my God. Him saying that almost like, I don't know, kind of like validated it for us because, he's in the horror space and stuff like that. And he's a horror fan. And one by one, people then started saying that. And after the premiere, everybody was kind of coming up to us and saying like, wow, like we were not expecting this. And this is what needs to be seen. Like, this is what people need to see this to understand why we are the fans we are. And so like all that like was like washed away, like instantly it was like washed away. And so then the hearing like your review and stuff like that, like it solidifies it for us. And I'm just so thankful. And I will never not trust my gut again and move forward with always trusting my gut because this is like the proof of that.
Yeah. And that's such a great, I didn't even think it. I feel like I've been seen.
Yeah.
That's to not to like simplify it. That sums up how I felt when I watched it. I'm like, and it made me proud to be not just a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, but a horror fan. And to be somebody that's passionate about something. I love when people are passionate about stuff. Even
right.
if it's stuff that I'm not necessarily passionate about. It just I don't know. I just love it. And obviously seeing it in Fred Heads, and it's like, that's me, it could have been me.
A lot of people were like, we didn't know you guys opened submissions. We're like, it was 6 years ago. That's why.
I remember it. Okay. This was before I had ever done anything on video or like, I had a podcast a little while ago, but it wasn't video. It was just the audio. And even then I was like, you could tell I was just not like comfortable being, or, not being in front of an audience, but knowing I was going to have an audience and just being in the spotlight at all, like no matter how little it is. Okay. So like, I remember when the submissions, I don't remember like what website or whatever it was. Cause like you said, it was 6 years ago. But I remember it and I'm like, God, I wish I was comfortable enough to do this.
Well, maybe for the next project, if you're a fan of what the next genre that we're doing, I will have to be like, listen, you're going to have to submit yourself because you're hilarious on camera. And I think that like, I think more people need to see you. So yeah, maybe for the next project.
Thank you.
That's why I'm always sharing your stuff because you're just hilarious. I love when you get really close to the screen.
I do too.
Based in eggs.